So welcome to another Get Legit webinar, everyone. This is the Cannabis Connection, your endocannabinoid system. Today's Wednesday, April 29th, 2026. My name is Erin, and I am the Education and Communications Manager here at the Cannabis Alliance. And I'm also going to share a quick sort of presentation about what we do. Okay, I should have done this in the first place, but here we are. Okay, I'd like to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. It is our hope that anyone interested in commercial cannabis here in Nevada County will take the time to tune into these webinars, educate themselves, and continue to be or become stewards of the environment and of our community. The Get Legit educational series provides the preparation necessary to assist in securing a local cultivation permit and state cultivation license. The series includes webinars, support groups, business skills trainings, and a mentor program called the Buddy Program. All webinars are online, free of charge, and they are open to the public. So what is the Alliance? We are a nonprofit trade association representing the local cannabis industry here in Nevada County. Our mission is to support public policy initiatives through representative advocacy and provide educational opportunities for business growth and success. There are lots of ways to get involved with the Alliance, and one of them is to become a member. We are a nonprofit trade association, like I said, and so we rely a lot of on our member representation in order to function. And some of the services that we provide to our members are consistent voice and representation locally and at the statewide level. We have year-round continuing education that includes compliance and regulatory workshops, business skills trainings, cannabis farming best practice seminars, and more, much like the one you are on today. We help you navigate the permit and ongoing compliance processes with the resources and support that you need. We have a buddy program that pairs permitted farmers with new farmers, and we have seasonal industry mixers and events for community and connection. Another way you can get involved is to become a sponsor. If you are a local business looking to support the cannabis industry here in Nevada County, we'd love for you to join us. We are so grateful for our current sponsors who believe in the work that we do, and we could not do this work without you. I'd like to give a shout out to some of our allied industry business sponsors. We have Ag Natural, Cramner Engineering, Plan Air Landscape Architecture, Humboldt Seed Company, Mr. B's Green Trees, Gold Coast Botanicals, Farm Labor, and Elevation 2477. We thank you all so much for your support, and we're so happy to have you on board. If you are interested in becoming a sponsor, you can email us at info@nccannabisalliance.org. There's a lot of links on here. I'm going to link those in the chat if you're interested in clicking on any of them to become a member or sponsor or to subscribe to our bi-monthly newsletter. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. It's facebook.com/Nevada County Alliance, and then Instagram is just at Nevada County Alliance. Of course, any additional questions, feel free to email us at the same email, info@nccannabisalliance.org. We have an upcoming webinar in about a month. This is Farmer to Farmer Tips and Tricks for Metric. This workshop is for licensed cultivators. You're going to learn how to use Metric and how it applies directly to cultivation workflows, covering everything from plant tagging and growth tracking to harvest reporting and waste management. This is an in-person workshop. It is not a webinar, so you have to register for the address and bring your laptop. That's Thursday, May 21st from 3 to 4 p.m., and it'll be hosted and presented by the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance. So again, please be sure you are a licensed cultivator before registering for that workshop. And then for future webinars and workshops, you can check out our website link, which is www.nccannabisalliance.org/getlegit. And then we have one really fun event coming up. It's our 10th year anniversary party. I can't believe we've been doing this for 10 years. So come celebrate with us. We'll give you, the date is to be determined. We still are planning, but it's for members and supporters of the Alliance. So that's something we have to look forward to. And of course, you can check out our website by going to the events tab on nccannabisalliance.org. Okay, so that's it for me. The format of today's webinar is that Melynda will be giving us a presentation with a Q&A to follow if you have questions. Your participation is encouraged. Please use the chat section and Q&A. Ask those questions, and that makes the webinar more useful for everyone. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website. And that's it for me. I'd like to pass it to Melynda Ruckels to introduce herself and to move forward with the presentation. Thank you so much for being here, Melynda.
Thank you for having me. Welcome to everybody. I'm a medical cannabis nurse here in Nevada County, located in Grass Valley is my office. And I serve down to Sacramento and up to Tahoe. And I'm just so happy just to present this endocannabinoid system today. I don't get to see you, huh? I don't get to see people, Erin? No?
Nope, it's just you. The star of the
Okay.
show.
Alrighty. Let's start with this. All
But just
right.
real quick, Melynda, there will be an opportunity at the end for Q&A, everyone. And if you do want to ask your question by like physically speaking, you can just raise your hand on the middle of your screen, and I'll click the button that allows you to speak your question instead of putting it in the Q&A in the chat. So that is an option if you'd like to have a little more personal interaction with Melynda and vice versa.
Okay. And I guess at the end I can tell you too how to get a hold of me. But I do consultations, I do a lot of speaking, and I help a lot of clients with medical cannabis. And I'll be talking a little bit about the Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 today also. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and hopefully everyone can see my screen now. So here we go. All right. And it's not moving forward.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're good.
let's
I can see it, Melynda.
there. There we go. We're good. Okay. So today we're going to cover the endocannabinoid system that consists of the receptors, the enzymes, and all the cannabinoids, the endocannabinoids, phytocannabinoids, synthetic cannabinoids. And I will explain each one of those. We'll learn where the receptors are on our body, CB1 and CB2. And then we'll talk about the receptors with their upregulation, downregulation, how they receive messages, and why are we using medical cannabis? What do we use it for? And then we'll cover some of the current and new legalities. So here's the endocannabinoid system. And the green here, the green dots, these are all the receptors. These are CB1 receptors that are the dark green. And they are mainly, as you can see, in the brain and spinal cord. And you can see over here all the areas that it covers. The endocannabinoid system, I'm going to show you a short 4-minute video that'll explain it probably better than I can. But what it does, the homeostasis is the main function of the endocannabinoid system. And I'm going to say ECS from now on. And it is all about homeostasis or balance. Believe it or not, this endocannabinoid system balances and controls every other system in our body. The cardiac system, the respiratory system, musculoskeletal, immune system, the endocrine system. So you can see that here, and the video will explain a little bit more. And that's what it's all about. It's homeostasis. But this is not taught in med school. This is not taught in nursing school because it's been prohibited since 1937 here in the US. So hopefully that's coming back with the new schedule. We'll get to do more research and education. So now I'm going to show you the video if I can figure out this sharing thing. Stop share now, share. And here we go. All righty. Start. Here you go.
The endocannabinoid system is found throughout the brains and nervous systems within all mammalian species and is the most extensive biological system of receptors in the body. Humans are born with an endocannabinoid system that serves an important function in both the development of the brain and the formation and development of synapses, the electrical connections in the brain that allow neurotransmitters to send information. Endocannabinoids and the receptors they bind to exist throughout the body. In the nervous system, glands, immune cells, organs, brain, and connective tissues. The system permeates all 11 central physiological systems in the body, working to handle the many functions necessary for survival. The ECS works to balance our vital physiological functions, affecting everything from sleep, appetite, pain, inflammation, memory, mood, and reproduction. How the ECS works. The ECS helps to regulate homeostasis across all the physiological systems, ensuring they're all working in harmony with one another. External stress creates an increase in the stress hormone, cortisol, in your bloodstream, which leads to an increase in endocannabinoid production in response. The endocannabinoids increase with stress to balance cortisol production in the blood. Endocannabinoids are produced naturally inside of the body. Compounds found outside the body, like CBD and THC, are called exogenous cannabinoids. CBD and THC are phytocannabinoids, meaning they originate from plants. Exogenous cannabinoids act similarly to the endocannabinoids produced by the body itself. The ECS works in the key lock model. Cannabinoids act as the keys within the endocannabinoid system, while receptors act like locks. Every time one key fits into one lock, the lock causes an effect to occur in the body. The ECS comprises three primary components: endocannabinoids, enzymes, and receptors. The two main types of endocannabinoids found in the body are anandamide and 2-AG. 2-AG is the most prevalent endocannabinoid, responsible for managing appetite, pain response, and immune system functions. Anandamide is responsible for runner's high and the blissful states that come from exercise and meditation. Enzymes act within the ECS to recycle used endocannabinoids after the body is through with them. Receptors receive the messages transmitted by cannabinoids, the groups of active compounds that interact with ECS receptors. There are two main types of receptors, CB1 and CB2. CB1 receptors exist in the brain and spinal cord, working to regulate appetite, memory, and to reduce pain. CB2 receptors are distributed within the immune system, working primarily to reduce inflammation throughout the body. In each part of the body, the endocannabinoid system performs different tasks, but the ECS always has one goal: homeostasis. The system works to keep the body stable through the inevitable changes and variations in the external, physical, and emotional environment. This unique endogenous system is the reason for the multiple therapy uses of medical cannabis.
So I'm going to explain a little bit more about what the video did. And don't you just love her English accent? I do. All right, so the cannabinoids, and explained, we have our own endocannabinoids. They are our own internal cannabinoids that we're born with. And the two that they discovered recently, look how recently, 1992, is anandamide, or we call AEA for short, and 2-arachidonyl glycerol. So we say 2-AG. So those are our endocannabinoids that we have and we're born with. Then we have phytocannabinoids that come from the plant, and we can enhance or replace the anandamide and the 2-AG. The most commonly known ones are THC and CBD, but there's over 200 cannabinoids in this plant, and there's many minor ones that we are learning about all the time. And now with the new Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, we're learning that we can do a lot more research with that legality passed. And then there's synthetic cannabinoids, and those are by Big Pharma makes these. They are synthetic. There's Marinol, or another name is called dronabinol, mostly prescribed for cancer patients for anti-nausea, vomiting from chemotherapy effects. And then there's Sativax. Can you see that on the screen? Because I have a bar covering it up.
I can see it's perfect.
Okay, Sativax is not legal in the US, but it is in Europe, and it's a very good drug used for seizures. But unfortunately, it's not legal here in the United States. So those are the cannabinoids. Three kinds: endocannabinoids, phytocannabinoids, and synthetic cannabinoids. Again, here's a picture of the brain and the spinal cord with the dark green receptor sites. And that has to do with appetite, immune cells, thinking, short-term memory, anything neurological. And if you don't take anything else away from this webinar today, I want you to realize that cannabis is neuroprotective, and that's one of its main functions. So any neurological disorder, from Parkinson's to Alzheimer's to MS to neuropathies, um, cannabis works wonders on. And then there's CB2 receptors, the lighter green, and that has to do with the peripheral system and the immune system and our organs. See, they're pretty heavy duty here in the center of the body and the abdomen. So your kidneys, liver, pancreas, reproductive system, all of that are where your CB2 receptors are. Now, the phytocannabinoids receptors, and you can see on the right here is a great picture of a receptor. And here is the plant, the cannabis plant, with some named phytocannabinoids, CBN, CBG, and they're listed over on the left. But this is how here's a little receptor here. It looks like a open cup. That's where it's the receptor, and it's a lock and key mechanism coming from the phytocannabinoid onto the receptor in the body. And when we are well and functioning, these receptors pull back a little bit, or they're neutral in the body. When we're ill, these receptors come up and say, hey, I need some help here. So if we don't have enough of our own endocannabinoids, 2-AG and anandamide, we can replace it with the cannabis plant. Isn't that awesome? This plant that's been growing on the earth forever, we have receptors for this plant. That's what's the cool thing. So regulation by these receptors, we have upregulation and down, and I mentioned it a little bit. In upregulation, the endocannabinoids, the receptors are reaching out for more cannabis. They increase in number when we are ill, so they reach up. And they've done studies that they find more receptors when someone is ill. So with the disease process, these receptors reach out. And in animal studies, the body was reaching out, and they've shown the upregulation in the intestines in Crohn's disease in mice. These are laboratory studies. So this was in mice. And in the brain, when there's nerve pain or sleep deprivation and seizures, they found more receptors. And in human findings, we've done a little bit of these studies, but most of the studies have been done in Israel and Italy because it was federally illegal here. We didn't do as many studies. But human findings have shown that increased numbers of CB2 receptors on the white blood cells of autistic kids are often shown on autistic cells because they also have immune challenges too. And then the receptors were upregulated, meaning there's more, they're reaching out in individuals with depression and those who committed suicide. These were from autopsies. So the receptors were really big and proliferating and wanted the cannabis at that time. So it showed when we're in a disease process that cannabis is welcome. And when there's a depletion of our own endogenous cannabinoids, we can supplement with these phytocannabinoids. Of importance is, this is really cool, there are no receptors in our brainstem. And our brainstem controls temperature, heart rate, and respiration. Unlike benzodiazepines, and opioids, there are receptors for those drugs in our brain stem. And that's why there are many overdoses with opioids and benzos. And we can prevent that with cannabis. And we've done a lot of weaning off of opioids and upping cannabinoids. And then there's no one has ever died or overdosed of cannabis. So that's a really good thing. I really like that there's no receptors in the brainstem. And I'm happy to answer questions when we get to that point about this. So what about enzymes in the endocannabinoid system? I'm going to try to use normal language and not so much scientific language, but enzymes are specialized proteins that synthesize and break down our own endocannabinoids for homeostasis. So you're saying, well, why do we want to break down our own endocannabinoids? Well, that's just part of the balance. And there's this one that creates and helps with the homeostasis. The fatty acid amide hydrolase, we call FA for short, breaks down anandamide into arachidonic acid, all for balance. This is all about balance. And then there's the monoacycloglycerol lipase, what we call MAGL for short. That downgrades and degrades the 2-AG, our own, and converts to glycerol and arachidonic acid. All about balance. Now, when these get too low, that's when we replace. There's another enzyme called COX enzymes. They produce compounds, prostaglandins, that cause inflammation, pain, and fever. So this FA breaks it down, but we can bypass that by taking the CBD, the CBG, CBDA, THC. That will decrease the breakdown and decrease the inflammation, pain, and fever. When scientists blocked FAH, or FAAH, an antidepressant effect was seen. And similarly, mice that were bred without this FAH, again, this is all in the lab, they have less anxiety. There continues to be studies how to block these enzymes from breaking down anandamide, and that would be great. If we can learn how to not break down our own great endocannabinoids, until then we supplement with the phytocannabinoids. So other phytocannabinoids you've probably heard of. These all come from the plant. Remember, it's one plant, but it's how it's grown is how it's high in certain cannabinoids. So some farmers might be growing high THC or high CBG. I have two nurse friends, husband and wife in Georgia. They have a CBG farm. All they grow is CBG plants there, and they make great medicine from their CBG. But CBG, cannabigerol, is the mother cannabinoid, and it, we have found out, is the precursor to THC and CBD. So if there's a big triangle or pyramid here, here's CBG right on the top, and then under that's THC, CBD, and on we go. CBG, CBN, CBC. There's a lot of them, and they're all antimicrobial or all antibacterial. CBG is very antidepressant. Again, this one's working really a lot on the nervous system. It's antibiotic, antifungal, decreases BP, blood pressure, and there's a lot of current research on it for cancer, PTSD, and seizures. So you can see, again, antidepressant, seizures, PTSD, it's all neurological. CBC is cannabicramine, and it's also anti-inflammatory, pain reliever, analgesic, antibiotic, antifungal, and anti-cancer. The more studies we're looking at, these phytocannabinoids are killing cancer cells. So this is something we're really going to be looking at with Schedule 3. And then there's CBN, which is weakly psychoactive as a byproduct of THC. It used to be, we'd say it was old THC and it broke down and went into CBN. we really don't like to say it's old THC. It's just oxidized. And CBN is very good for sleep. The N I like to remember for nighttime, CBN for sleep. And it's weakly psychoactive. It's an immunosuppressant, will help with your immune system. It's very relaxing and sedative without the psychotropic effects. And then there are the acid or the raw phytocannabinoids. This is CBDA, THCA. The A stands for acid. It means it is the raw part of the plant. And what I like to do is recommend that my cancer clients take the raw leaves and put them in a morning green smoothie with their other greens like celery, green apples, spinach, all the greens. If you put in the raw plant, that is THCA, and it will stay THCA until we heat it, burn it, smoke it, or bake it with brownies. Once we heat it or decarboxylize it, it converts to THC that will give us the psychotropic effects. But the raw plant is still very immune building, health building. It's great for wellness, and you will not have the psychotropic effects. A lot of my cannabis clients do not want the psychotropic effects because of all the other chemotherapy drugs they're on. But once it converts to THC, it's a very anti-inflammatory, anti-convulsant, neuroprotective, and you're going to hear these words over and over throughout this hour of seminar because most of these phytocannabinoids have all these properties. We're very fortunate to have this plant at our reach. And then there's THC or tetrahydrocannabivarin, and this is also non-psychoactive. It improves memory. It decreases appetite. So some people maybe want to lose weight. They want to try THCV. I would not give this to a cancer client who needs to eat, and THC will increase their appetite because they don't want to eat. Chemotherapy makes them sick, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. So I highly recommend a little bit of THC for them. And if they take it in balance with CBD, there won't be so much of a high, but they can get the effects of the munchies. THC gives us the munchies, and that's good for cancer patients who aren't eating. But if someone wants to lose weight, there's THCV. All kinds of goodies listed in this plant. Go back. Terpenes or terpenoids. This is the wonderful aroma or scent of any plant, just like essential oils. Lavender, rosemary, rose. What else is there? Any essential oil, mugwort. I said rose oil. But this is what gives the plants their aroma. Same with cannabis. There's terpenes. And some farmers are breeding the plant for a specific terpene because they have their properties too. And I'll show you the next slide has that listing of what they are. But the terpenes also are protective on the plant themselves from predators. You know how we have here in Grass Valley lots of deer, and they'll eat anything they can get their hands on, but they won't eat lavender, rosemary, mugwort, borage. A lot of these herbs have terpenoids that are very abundant, and the deer don't like that. So the plant is protected by that. And then these terpenes have sedating or activating qualities. And we can choose a product now by terpenes. They're really manufacturing some of the cannabis based on terpenes and the effect of that terpene for the purpose we're looking to take this phytocannabinoid. And here is the graph on this. Here's myrcene, and it's found in cloves, and it's sedating. It's also found in lemongrass, hops. Hops is very related to cannabis, and thyme. So that's good for relaxation. It's anti-inflammatory. It's against cancer or anti-carcinogenic. Then there's linalool, found in lavender. It's very citrusy too. And as we all know, lavender is very relaxing and anxiety relieving. The medical value is it's an antidepressant, and then it's good for sleep. Then there's limonene, very good for cancer. So cancer patients can seek out a high product in limonene, and the people in your licensed dispensaries, especially up here at elevation 2477 and provisions, they can help you choose a product with a certain terpene that you're looking for. A-pinene and B-pinene, very good for cancer, especially prostate cancer, because of the medicinal value of this terpene is antiseptic, anti-inflammatory, and it's also, of course, found in the pine trees, rosemary, and sage. So you can see how all these plants are so related. Trans-caryophyllene or beta-caryophyllene are spicy, woodsy. They're found in pepper and other spicy plants like cloves, cinnamon, and they're anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, antiseptic. Like I said, you're going to hear these words a lot repeated for each of the cannabinoids. That's just a little bit on terpenes that are contained in the phytocannabinoids. We want to talk just a little bit. I just want to mention the entourage effect, and that's using the whole plant. That's most beneficial because we get all the properties of the plant. The synthetic cannabinoids I mentioned, like dronabinol and marinol and Sativax, they do not have the entourage effect. Big Pharma pulls out the specific properties they want for anti-nausea on those cannabinoids, synthetic cannabinoids. But when we're buying cannabis or growing our own, we want that whole entourage effect. We want the whole plant. It's very good. How do we take care of our endocannabinoid system? Exercise. Curcumin is very anti-inflammatory. CBD feeds our endocannabinoid system. The NSAIDs and Tylenol. Why would we think we want that? Well, they act very much like cannabinoids. They're anti-inflammatory, they are analgesic. So NSAIDs and Tylenol work together with cannabis, and that's good. Black pepper, like you just saw that on the terpene list. Then there's chocolate, yum, and maca. Those are very good to enhance your ECS. Social activities, interrelations. We are meant to be in relationship. We're meant to be with people. When COVID happened, we were all isolated. We wore masks. Nobody could even see what we were doing. There was higher rates of depression, higher suicide rates, and it just shows we are meant to be with each other in relationship. And fermented foods are very good for the endocannabinoid system. What doesn't help our ECS? Alcohol, steroids, stress. Stress makes us all sick. If we don't take care of that stress, we're going to get sick. A poor diet and genetics that we can't do anything about. We're born with what we're born with. But this is what can help you take care of your endocannabinoid system. So a little bit on the legalities. Goodbye Schedule 1 and hello Schedule 2. But this only pertains to FDA-approved cannabis-derived medications. So it's a step forward, but there's a lot we need to learn about it and do more work on. But Schedule 1 was totally illegal under federal law, although each state has their own laws for recreation and medical. So under Schedule 1, nobody could prescribe it. It was labeled as high potential for abuse, just like heroin, LSD, psilocybin were in there. Luckily, we're doing more studies on psilocybin too, and will probably become more legal. And so Schedule 1 also says, in addition to high potential for abuse, There's no accepted medical value, but now we know there is with cannabis. So what is Schedule 3? What's that all about? It reduces the regulatory barriers for FDA approved. So they have to be FDA approved to qualify for Schedule 3. And that schedule, that's categorized with your codeine, steroids, ketamine, morphine. And to add to this, state programs will remain unchanged. So here in California, we'll still have our same rules of recreational and medical cannabis. 2 states in the United States, they have no program, no recreational, no medical, and that is Idaho and Kansas. So you do not want to be crossing any state lines into Idaho or Kansas with cannabis. It's completely illegal in those 2 states. You don't want to take it there. Okay, what are some of the qualifying diagnoses for medical cannabis to be legally used in California? Remember, we're in California and we're a little ahead of the most of the country with using cannabis. Also in California, we have a little more leeway with the medical. So AIDS or HIV, cachexia or a wasting away, malnutrition, cancer, glaucoma, these are all diagnoses that are approved to use cannabis, especially if you have a medical marijuana card. It's the first time you'll hear me say marijuana because we've come to know that that's a derogatory term. We want to say cannabis, but the cards are still labeled medical marijuana cards. So if you have one of these cards, you can qualify for compassionate care programs. I know Elevation 2477 has them and other dispensaries in our area. If you have this card, you qualify for free or discounted cannabis, especially if you're a medical patient. For glaucoma, PTSD, persistent muscle spasms or seizures, severe nausea or pain. That would be cancer patients, maybe back pain, PTSD. Other conditions that a physician can approve would be anxiety. A lot of people today, especially our young people, they have anxiety. I think COVID has a lot to do with that. They're just afraid. They're very anxious. Depression, ADD and ADHD, all these can be qualifying diagnoses to use cannabis with a physician's medical marijuana card. And let me clarify, you do not need a medical marijuana card to buy cannabis in a dispensary. You just have to go in and register, show them your driver's license, and you can buy cannabis. How do we take cannabis? Routes of administration are inhalation, smoking, vaporization. This is probably the least recommended because of the toxins, the carbons that we would inhale into our lungs. So that's not the most recommended way we do that. But if a client is having a lot of pain, excruciating pain, chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting, I tell them, go take a hit. And that works within 2 to 3 minutes. And then next we have, I would say sublingual would be the next quickest, works in 10 to 15 minutes. Sublingual are the drops. Here's a little dropper jar. It doesn't show a dropper. And that works, 10 to 15 minutes, and it's sublingual under your tongue, in your mouth, and then you can swallow it, so you're also digesting it. Another digesting one is edibles. Edibles can be tricky though. We don't know when they're going to work according to what's in your stomach. And especially if you've had, say, a high-fat diet, so you go to In-N-Out and you have cheeseburger fries and, I don't know, animal fries, lots of fat in there. So your edible is going to work a lot faster. Cannabis is lipophilic, meaning it adheres to fat. So if you've got a lot of fat in your stomach, cannabis is going to work faster. And I do recommend that, especially to the caregivers of Alzheimer's patients. They want it to work fast for those people who are acting out, or they're aggressive, or they have sundowner syndrome. So I have them do a high-fat smoothie in the evening with their gummy. Other ways we use it is topical, lotions, creams, salves, and then there's transdermal patches. Those work very well too. They seem to be absorbed better onto the skin. And then there's suppositories. I have prostate cancer patients, and they will do suppositories because injecting that into that anal canal is really close to the prostate gland. And some of them are making their own suppositories and doing very, very well with that. It would have to be high doses of cannabis for the suppositories. And they won't get high because a lot of them do use the RSO or Rick Simpson's oil, a very thick, viscous, high concentrated cannabis into a suppository of coconut oil, and then they put these in little forms and freeze them into the suppository, and then they inject them or insert them that way. And they don't get high because it's not absorbed that way into the central nervous system. Always with cannabis, the rule of thumb is start low and go slow. We want to see what you respond to. Some people, 2 milligrams is great. Some people need 25 milligrams, but we want to start slow. Most of the edibles that I'll recommend come in 5 milligrams or 10. I just have patients cut them in 4s and take them that way and then see how you respond. If they say, oh, I didn't feel anything, I didn't sleep good, okay, let's take a half a gummy tonight and see how that works. But we want to maximize the therapeutic benefits with minimizing adverse effects. And adverse effects would be they just don't feel good, they feel spacey, they just didn't like the way they felt. So we cut back, we balance that. We want to find that sweet spot or the therapeutic dose. Always start low and go slow. And Dr. Sulak in Maine, he's a cannabis physician, he says start low, go slow, but don't be afraid to go all the way if you have to. Safety considerations. I want you to know that you should never, ever, ever, never buy your cannabis at a smoke shop or a gas station. That's not tested. It's not licensed. You don't know what you're getting. So when you do buy your cannabis from a licensed dispensary, ask them for this certificate of analysis. This tells you what it was tested for and what's in it. And here's a terpene profile, the purity, no pesticides were found, no herbicides, and then it tells you what cannabinoids are in there and what percent. So if they cannot give you a certificate of analysis where you're buying your cannabis, don't buy it. Here's another one. It's just called a certificate of analysis or COA. Tells you here's your terpene results, what is in it, what's not, and here's your heavy metals, there's your heavy metals, your herbicides, pesticides, and the ND is not detected, not detected, not detected, and here a pass. So, and here's, yeah, all kinds of terpenes. Look at these beautiful terpenes in here. So you can ask for this. You can ask to see a certificate of analysis, and they should be able to show you that. Okay, cannabis is not completely benign. We have to consider drug-to-drug interactions. And you've probably heard of CHS or cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. And that's where someone, suddenly they've been using cannabis maybe for a long time. All of a sudden they wake up one morning and they just can't stop vomiting. They usually go to the ER and they're diagnosed with CHS. Even though this is overdiagnosed, and if someone's just sick, maybe just vomiting, sometimes they'll get labeled as CHS, and that's not a good thing. It's not that common, but usually it happens with people that have been using cannabis for a long time and very frequently. Same with cannabis use disorder, CUD. This is usually seen in young, I'd say adolescent males that have used cannabis, say starting when they were 12 to 14 years old. They smoked it every day, a lot of it, frequently, all the time. and they have cannabis use disorder, and it's maybe 15% of our population. And it's not a good thing. These guys need to get off. No one under 25 should be using cannabis unless they're sick, cancer, have seizures, because the brain is still developing up until age 25. So we don't want to stunt that brain growth with cannabis. Drug to drug reactions, and I know I'm wrapping up here so we can have Q&A. Beta blockers, or they are antihypertensive or blood pressure medications. Beta blockers effect will be decreased if someone is using cannabis. So the interaction effect is cannabis will lower the effect of the beta blocker or the blood pressure medicine. So you always need to let your doctor know that you're taking cannabis. And I will work with physicians and help them with their clients when they're on different drugs so we can work it out. So say someone's on an antihypertensive or a blood pressure medicine, they want to do cannabis, and it's going to decrease the way that pharmaceutical works. So we really want to monitor their blood pressure. They might have to increase the blood pressure medication, or we would increase or lower the cannabis effect. Same with the calcium channel blocker. It's the same as a beta blocker. It's a lowering blood pressure, lowering heart rate. So when they use cannabis, those effects are decreased. So we have to monitor that. If someone's on a blood thinner like Coumadin, warfarin, Plavix, this will increase their bleeding time. Usually cardiac patients are on blood thinners, and if they want to use cannabis, this is going to increase the bleeding time. So that really has to be monitored. They do blood tests for that. And then opioids and other painkillers, narcotics, cannabis will increase that opioid effect. That makes sense, especially THC, because it's a psychotropic. So they can decrease the opioids and the pharmaceuticals by using a little bit of cannabis, or the THC actually. And this is where we wean them off of the opioids also. The people that are addicted to the opioids, and then all of a sudden there was the big crisis and they just cut everybody off. That was so traumatic. People were having a lot of problems with that. You just can't cut someone off of using narcotics like this. They must be weaned off, and we can help them with cannabis. A lot of people, polypharmacy, anybody on over 5 pharmaceuticals or more is considered polypharmacy. And that's very important to know if you're going to start cannabis because of all the other drug interactions. Okay, that's enough for my presentation. How about some questions that hopefully I can answer for you?
That was awesome, Melynda. Oh my gosh, I learned so much.
I
That was
hope
really
so.
awesome. So many things I didn't know, and so many things I've always wondered about, needed clarification on. So
Oh,
that's
good, good.
really cool. Um, okay, everyone, we have
Any,
the Q&A box. Feel free to use it. You can just type your question in there, or you can use the chat. I'll be checking both. But to start us off, while you're thinking of your questions, I have a few questions of my own.
okay.
Just small little things I was just wondering about. The first one is when you said cannabis is neuroprotective, what does that mean again?
Well, if anything, it's designed for the neural system, and especially someone with neuropathies. You can put the salve on the neuropathies. CBG is very good for neuroprotectant. It enhances the neural system and will decrease any tremors, like with Parkinson's. It helps control tremors. So anything neurological, cannabis is one of the best medications for.
Okay, cool. That's interesting. And also, I wanted to read Rob K's note to everyone. I just saw younger adults with anxiety need a hybrid flower strain versus high THC, which they more than less desire. And that is very, very true, very relevant in this day
Yeah.
and age in cannabis uh, farming and production. We are seeing a lot of high THC strains, and they cause more anxiety. So
Yes,
it's a really good
you
point.
are absolutely right, Rob, about that. CBD and CBD are excellent for anxiety and to keep those younger people with the anxiety off of it. My granddaughter was one, and she was taking the tincture, and it was so funny. I probably was not clear on my instructions. I said, okay, you take the tincture, you hold it under your tongue for 30 to 60 seconds. Well, she was doing that and then spitting it out. I said, oh no, you're supposed to swallow it.
Oh
So that
no.
was my bad. My bad.
That's funny. Um, let's see. I had another question, but also I wanted to make just something I picked up that you said that cannabis can replace low endocannabinoids in the body.
Yes.
That's so cool. That was really interesting to me. I wrote it down because I was just like, that's a cool fact.
Yeah,
Um,
that's our anandamide and 2-AG. It does decrease with age, so our older adults, our geriatrics, we have less than a younger person, but we can supplement. It's like a supplement, it's like a daily vitamin. We can take our phytocannabinoids to increase our own endocannabinoids.
yeah, that is so cool. And then maybe this is the same, or no, this is about the upregulation or up, is that what it was called?
Uh-huh.
Um, so to clarify, when someone is sick or if they have something like depression,
Mm-hmm.
basically the upregulated means that the body has wants more, it produces more
Yes.
phyto, and maybe I'm getting that part mixed up, but
No, you have it completely correct.
yeah.
When someone's sick, the little receptors are coming up. They're reaching out for the phytocannabinoid. We don't have enough in our system. That's the balancing homeostatic part of it. We need more. So let's get some phytocannabinoids in here and balance. I did fail to mention about down regulation. When the receptors are pulled way down, and people think, oh, I need more cannabis, and they do to get the same effect. That means they're getting too much cannabis. When those receptors pull back, they need to take a tolerance break or what we
Mhm.
call a T break to reset the endocannabinoid system. And then it only takes a couple days. You just get off cannabis for 2 days. And then the receptors and the ECS goes back into balance and the receptors come back to neutrality and we can lower that cannabis dose.
Oh, that's really cool. Interesting. And then another question about you said there's no receptors in the brainstem, but there are for opioids. Why is that significant? Or what, can you explain that a little bit more?
It's significant because no one can overdose on cannabis. No one has ever died or overdosed on cannabis. They may have had an unpleasant experience, maybe with too much THC. But again, the antidote is CBD. Take a lot of CBD. They will calm down, put them in a dark room, hydrate them, and that unpleasant feeling of too much THC will go away. And that's important because we do have receptors in our brainstem for the narcotics, the opioids, the benzos. And that's what does cause respiratory depression and a respiratory arrest and death.
Okay, I see. Because that's where all the important kind of body functions happen.
That's our vital center,
Vital signs,
TPR,
right?
temperature, pulse, respiration.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then the last thing I had, small thing, but you said that in the terpenes part of your presentation that some of those terpenes were antiseptic. What does that mean?
Um, you can relate it to antibiotic. It's bacteria
Oh,
fighting.
okay.
It's going to get rid of the germs. Yeah.
Cool. That was a simple question. But those are all the questions I had. Does anyone have any questions? Anything not too small? You saw heard my questions. It's just curiosity. If you have any, please put them in the chat or the Q&A box. Or raise your hand if you want to actually speak your question. You can do so, and I can allow you to speak.
I want to know, is Melissa here from Australia? She was going to tune in. I guess you
Melissa
just,
Ryan
yeah, in the chat. Are you here? Yay.
is there, and she's raising her hand. Do you want to talk, Melissa? Here, I'll go ahead.
Yeah, talk.
There you go.
Unmute yourself. There you go.
There you go.
Hi, Melynda. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? I'm so
I'm
glad
so
you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and letting me know that this was on today. I have just one question, and I know a lot of people, when they're thinking about medicinal cannabis, are afraid of how that's going to affect them in terms of their mental function. So I'm wondering if you can speak to that a little bit, because I know sometimes that can be a barrier for people.
That's a good question and comment, Melissa. Well, THC is really the only psychotropic cannabinoid that we know of right now. Although I have heard some people say that CBD sometimes they'll just feel a little something. I mean, everybody's different. But usually, when someone comes to me, and I do get a lot of older clients, they walk in and they say, I really want to try cannabis for my cancer or my pain, but I don't want to get high. Don't get me high. So, you don't have to get high. So, we'll start with the non psychotropic, and that would be your CBD, CBDA, CBG, CBGA. They're not going to get psychotropic effects with that. And if there is someone they want to do the THC just more for pain relief, maybe too, we'll balance it out with the CBD. And they won't get such a great high or mental capacity, like you mentioned, where they can't function. And that's, again, trial and response, or start low, go slow, and we work it out. We find that sweet spot where they're not mentally impaired and they can still function using THC.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome. All right. Anyone else have any questions? We're at 4 o'clock, so we're gonna wrap up. But if you have any last minute burning questions, feel free to ask them, raise your hand, put them in the chat or Q&A. And okay, we do have, is it Alara? Alara, you're muted, and just unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you so much. I jumped on towards the end because I was out in the garden, lost track of time. But I've been making full extraction oils and CBD oils and testing them and making chocolates, and I'm getting ready to take the next stage and level of making tinctures and some of the oils I've had for a while. Do you know the longevity of these oils
The
and
oils,
and I also have,
go
go ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I also have some that have been in jars in pure organic cane alcohol for
Okay.
years now because we haven't gotten to the extraction of it. And so you're inspiring me to kind of make some salves and go ahead and make the tinctures and things like that. So
Oh yes, please do. I'm also an herbalist and make tinctures. Alcohol tinctures last forever, and so they're not going to expire. The oils, I think you'd have to look at the bottle maybe for the recommended date, but you can also smell the oil for a rancid smell. And I know I've worked with essential oils, and it's the essential oils don't expire either because they're just pure plant
But
product.
I actually mean the full extraction oil.
Oh.
Because it's like a Rick Simpson oil. So we've made a lot of,
Mm.
so we've gone through that process. So it's just the thick black, full,
Yeah, the
some people
viscous,
call it
yeah.
Rick Simpson, but we call yeah. So
Uh,
that's what I was wondering, I'm
okay,
sure the alcohol stuff that's in the alcohol lasts forever, but I
right.
wasn't sure about that.
I don't know how long or an expiry date on RSO would be, but if you email me, I will find out and let you know. Yeah, that's a very good question. I need to know.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, email me. I put it in the chat. Thank you, Alara.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, like Melinda said, you can email her for any additional questions if you have anything that you think of after this webinar. That's Melinda at melyndaruckels.com. It is in the chat if you want to copy it. Also, her website, www.melindaruckels.com. And I think that wraps it up for today. If you did miss anything or if you want to go back over this presentation, it was recorded and it will be posted on our website within the next week, hopefully tomorrow, but maybe next Tuesday once I get around to it. And that's nccannabisalliance.org /get legit. And it's also on our YouTube channel, which, oh, I forgot to put that on here, but let me do that real quick. And you can just go straight to our YouTube channel and check out all of our previous Get Legit webinars, including Melynda's, which will be up in the next couple of days. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. This was an awesome webinar. I learned a ton. I hope you did too. And Melynda, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate your knowledge and your expertise.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day. And thanks again. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.